Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We are joined here by our performance coach and friend to talk more about savoring our lives. And that's what she does best as a mom, as a coach, as an author. She's here guiding people. And today we're going to talk about why your need for control is really holding you back and how to finally find that peace. So savorlifewithdiana.com. Tell us a little bit about who it is you are and what you do. Although I already know you for a long time now, and I'm excited because she's awesome. And thanks again for sharing us and stuff on social media. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for having me here, Jill. Yes, my name is Diana Bejasa. I'm a life coach, a speaker, and my mission is to help driven professionals achieve their ambitious goals without sacrificing their health or their personal life. And I combine my 20 years of experience thriving in high stress, male dominated professions, along with science-backed strategies to help us achieve what it is that we want, whether it's in 15 minutes or in a month.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here again. And we're going to talk today about why your need for control, you say, is holding you back. Could you share a little bit about this?
Yeah, well, if you're anything like me, maybe you think that being in control of work, of decisions, of success, of life really is like part of success. Uh, it's like we've worked hard, we've overthought every single meticulous little detail, planned for every possibility, and maybe even believe that it's our fear that's keeping us sharp.
Hmm.
But that's not the truth.
It's not what is. Well, because sometimes fear can keep you on your toes, right? Fear
Yes.
can keep you above the water. But
Yes.
what is it really doing to you then?
Fear is an essential part of achieving our goals and dreams because it's an indicator that our goals and dreams are outside of our comfort zone. And that's important for our growth. So fear is an essential part of our growth and our evolution, but it's not something that we want to actually result in us like kind of using that coping mechanism of a need for control. That need for control, that response to fear isn't actually protecting us, it's holding us back.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And we overthink sometimes, right? Or a lot of
Yes.
times.
Yes. Oh my God. I literally sometimes I know what it feels like to be like crafting a message like a billion times, running it into Chat GPT, like, what about this small edit? What about that small edit? And thinking that like if I just say the exact perfect words or if I just write the exact perfect email, like that's gonna make all of the difference. But a lot of times, I'm guessing you can relate, Jill. Like you've like spent too long writing a message or something like that before.
Always. I think a lot of times I do. And too much.
Yeah. Overthinking doesn't give us confidence. It steals our clarity. And there's
And
so
our
much
time. It's a
power.
time
Yes. And
drainer.
our time. Oh my gosh. And our time. And there's much more power that comes when we trust ourselves and don't second guess every move. Like a lot of times for us, we get in this place of analysis paralysis because we've had that experience of making a mistake and we're afraid to make one again. So ask yourself, like, where am I over analyzing every single one of my moves, and why am I not trusting myself to take action?
We need to have more confidence in ourselves. I think a lot of us
Yeah,
don't, right?
yeah, yeah. Well,
Why?
it goes back to our brain trying to protect us and keep us safe from the times that we've been criticized for our mistakes or for the times that something went wrong, and to
Yeah.
protect us from that feeling of failure or any of those other things, our brain tries to protect us and say, okay, if I control every single little thing, if I think about this a lot, that's what's going to keep me prepared for for what happens next. But overthinking prepares us for nothing.
It's true.
Yeah. Like
Mm,
when we're looking, the real clarity is going to come from trusting our intuition, from just simply moving forward. A lot of times I'll say, like, ask for forgiveness instead of permission. Like, let yourself make that bad decision or do things a little imperfectly rather than keep plotting your next step. I think about there's a book that Brene Brown wrote where she speaks about like letting your she calls it her shitty first draft. She says like, just let the shitty first draft go, right? Because once you let that go, once you put it out into the world, then you know that every step from there is simply going to get better and better and better.
No.
I think that there's a lot of power in just allowing ourselves not to overthink things before we put something out into the world so that we feel this level of preparation that we're prepared enough and just saying like, I am enough right now. I'm going to put this out knowing that as soon as I do, something even better can be born from that.
But sometimes people aren't as positive as you, me. They're feeling down. You got to instill that, right? In them. How do you work with someone that's doubtful of themselves, right? And their own achievements?
Yeah. That reminds me a lot about Carol Dweck's book on the growth mindset. I don't know if you've had a chance to read it, but she talks about how when we place a lot of focus on results over on the process or on the growth, it leads to a fixed mindset. So when we're overly focused on getting the result perfect, we actually limit ourselves because obsessing over the details, it doesn't create perfection. It only magnifies our doubts. Have you ever had that experience, Jill, where like you want something to be perfect and it just makes you self-doubt more?
Always. It's like a lot of what I do, and I'm trying not to instill that in my kids because it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Planning parties for the kids, trying to make it perfect, and I'm just like, why? And then like the moment goes and it's like, oh my gosh, I wish I spent more time really in the moment enjoying all my family and company than worrying about every little detail and pointing out what went wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like we end up wishing that instead of focusing on perfection, we focused on the present moment.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of times, like perfection is really what makes us human. And when we try to project this image of perfection, it's that fear of imperfection that's stopping us from making the progress that we really want.
Mm. Well, you also
Like,
mentioned, oh, go ahead.
oh, no, go ahead.
About was it control, right? A lot of us then become a little too controlling, guilty of this,
Yeah.
and want to control every little aspect of every little detail. And is it really that we're bad people, or we're just using that as a security blanket to cover up for our own
It is
overthinking?
absolutely that security blanket. So if you think about with a child, right, what their security blanket does for them, it's this
Hmm.
object that they hold on to, right? Thinking like, if I hold on to this, then I'm safe.
Yeah.
If I hold on to this, then I'm safe. And it's the same idea for us as adults when it comes to control. We think if I hold on to control, then I'm safe. So we use it as this means, this mechanism, as this reaction to fear. If I just can control everything, that's what's going to keep me safe. But control isn't strength. It's a security blanket for the fear, right? And the real peace that we're looking for is going to only happen when we let go of what we can't change. So rather than looking to control, I look at where can I release? Where can I release what's holding me down? Where can I release what is no longer serving me? What is it that like where is it that I'm trying to control something that in the grand scheme of things really doesn't matter? Like when you were talking about a party, right? Like we so many times, we're almost conditioned to care about like every detail. Like are like do the plates match the napkins and the forks and the spoons or whatever? Or, is this menu cohesive and are the right people mingling? Like it's like there's so many little details.
Hmm.
And when we just allow ourselves to trust, like, I'm enough, then we're not so worried about everything showing up perfectly because we just know, like, this is going to be a great party for our kids. And we get a chance then to really step back and enjoy the moment because nobody is going to remember the details of the china or like the tablecloths or anything. What they're going to remember is how you showed up to make them feel.
Hmm. True. And if want to be heard, if you want to express yourself and you want people to show up for you, it's like And you want people to genuinely like you, right? You got to calm down. That's what I think. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
so,
I think about my wedding, right? So when I got married, I it happened to be like the way that my parents chose to chose to raise me was they were like, you're gonna pay for your wedding. You're
hmm
gonna make this investment. So one of the places where I chose to cut costs, but also kind of align with my environmentally friendly side was I was like, okay, I'm gonna use compostable spoons and forks and plates and stuff like that. And my mom like freaked out. She was like, "What? Like you're not going to have like proper silverware and
Oh,
glasses and all these different things?" And I was like, "No, like it's not really a priority for me, right?" And again, I think that's the key. It's like we want to we want to exert control where we think it truly matters, but we
hmm
have to let go where we realize it really doesn't.
yeah.
So when I let go of that detail, right? Like my mom is freaking out, but nobody remembers. Like I mentioned to other people after our wedding, like, yeah, we used compostable plates and silverware. And they're like, you did? I don't even remember. Because nobody else cares. Nobody else cares about that. We're the only ones who care about that. And what I did get as feedback about my wedding was that it was one of the most memorable events that anybody that many people who'd gone to many weddings had been to. It was like the most memorable wedding that they'd been to ever. And it wasn't the silverware that they remembered. It was how I cultivated an event that cared about how they were going to feel. I think about that quote from, I think it's Maya Angelou all the time. Like, they're not going to care about, what things look like. They're going to care about how you made them feel. So when we allow for ourselves to not get caught up in control as this thing that's going to bring us certainty and realize that it's a mask for insecurity, that's when we can start to realize that real peace is built on inner calm and not on grasping at control.
hmm Well, how do we grasp to work with you?
Yeah, so you can find out more about working with me on my website, savorlifewithdiana.com. That's SAVOR Life with Diana. You can also, one thing I think that's really powerful is to actually check out my chronic stress masterclass, which is available also on my website, where I really get into like where is stress kind of taking over? Where is this desire to control everything really keeping you stuck in that survival mode? Because trying to control everything, it's not the solution. Real freedom is going to only happen for us when we learn how to flow. Trying to control is us putting ourselves in a cage.
hmm Yeah. Well, we want to break free from that cage. We want to live a happy, joyful life's freedom, and to feel good about ourselves. And, when it comes to, I guess the word is, what's the word you just used? Um, well, it was control, but not, like the fear of failing, I guess, right? It's, the limiting beliefs. When you limit beliefs, how does that affect you and your body and your future?
When you're so caught up in yesterday's failure, you can't bring tomorrow's success because you're looking back at what happened instead of looking forward where you really want to go. And have you ever tried to walk when you're looking backward, Jill?
No, I'm trying now. I'm not walking, but I'm trying.
Yeah,
It's impossible.
yes, you're not moving forward, and even if you are trying to force yourself forward while looking back,
hmm
you're more likely to trip.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with that fear of failure. Fear of failure is us looking back at our past. When fear of failure is driving us, it's chaining us to yesterday's mediocrity. So the only greatness that we're going to find in the future is going to happen when we dare to go beyond fear's limits. When we start to
hmm
think instead of, oh, what if I fail? What if I succeed? What if I knew I couldn't fail? And when you're able to take steps like that, I invite you to ask yourself as you're listening, if I knew I couldn't fail, what's a step I would take right now? What would you do differently? What would you do today? And who would you be a year from now if you began to choose courage and confidence looking forward instead of staying chained and looking back at your past?
Oh, oh. Hmm. Gosh, there's so much I would change, but we all have regrets. Oh gosh, but you
Yeah,
can't change
we
it.
don't
So
want
move
regret.
on. I know,
It's
I
moving
know, I
forward,
know.
right? And honestly, when you see like a model on the catwalk and she like totally falls.
Yeah.
Okay, so if she totally falls and then she gets up and she's like, "Oh man," and then you can see her like kind of being cautious or like worrying about if she's falling again. Like that's one thing. But when you see the model who falls down flat on her face, gets right back up, and then just struts her stuff, aren't you cheering for her?
Totally, totally, because we've
Yeah,
all been there. But yeah, she's
we've
handling
all
it.
been there. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's that humanity of somebody seeing that there's a part of us that wants to slink into the corner and be like, "Oh my God, I totally failed. I completely made a mistake." But when we're willing to get up and to say to ourselves, like, "Yep, I'm gonna dust myself off, leave that in yesterday, and I'm gonna keep strutting forward." There's a power in that that's truly inspiring. And I know you talked about our kids, right? And
Mm-hmm.
how them seeing this pattern of control makes a big difference in their life because again, they don't listen to what we say, right, Jill? They listen to what we do.
Yeah, it's true.
So so I always look at where how can I really set a good example for my daughter of dusting myself off, not beating myself up, for example, when it comes to divorce and just allowing myself to say, okay, it happened. I'm moving forward. And I want for my daughter to remember the part where I moved forward because I'm the only one who gets caught up in the ways that I made missteps.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. Oh my gosh. And yeah, as parents, they learn from us. We are like their example. Everything we do, they're like little, they like suck everything in and up, right? So it's like everything you do, they're gonna learn it from you. And so then you're gonna wonder, where'd they get that from? Oh gosh, that's from me. Did I do that? Do I do that? Uh-huh. I yell like that. Uh-huh. Yeah. Why are you like that? Oh, because mama yells like that. Yes.
Yeah.
Guilty.
Yeah. And again, all we can do is let go of who we were and keep moving forward because being busy and in control, it doesn't mean that we're productive. We often get caught up in that trap, but it actually just really means that we're stressed.
Yeah.
Real productivity is focus. It's not frenzy.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
when we're able to embody that, not just for ourselves, but for our kids, for the people watching us, for the people we care about, that's how we can be more focused on creating impact than this illusion of control.
Hmm. Well, walk us through this. You're walking, well, working with people, walking them through this pattern to break these patterns, to break this cycle. But how long does it take to actually start changing, to really start breaking patterns and developing new ones? And, you know,
I love that question, Jill. So a lot of times my clients come, they may be in their 40s or 50s or 30s, and so they have 30 years of this conditioning and this pattern, like you were saying, these limiting beliefs that they've embedded and these habits that they've built over decades. And literally in months, because I'm using I'll explain it in a second, but literally in months, they experience a transformation. They experience the loss of the weight and the judgment and these beliefs that they'd had for years. And that's not something that happens like once or twice with my clients. That happens all of the time. And it's not me. What it
mm-hmm,
is that, I mentioned earlier, like I use science-backed techniques to really help my clients experience that transformation in months and minutes. And one of those things, you can actually learn a lot more about it. You can experience it for yourself in my masterclass, but it's about using a science-backed tool for not just relieving the stress that we're feeling that leads us to want to control, but also actually beginning to reprogram our brain so that we're not thinking and reacting out of survival mode. It's really giving ourselves, I think we talked about this a couple episodes back, but like our brain really craves calm, right?
mm-hmm.
It really it craves, and it thinks that, okay, if I just control all these things, if I hold them in place, that's what's going to keep me calm. But holding is only more tension and stress. And what we need to do is figure out, okay, where can we release the stuff that doesn't serve us anymore, that we really can't control, and focus on the stuff that we can control. Because there are components of our results of any situation that we can control. And I think it's much more important for us to realize that like it's not about that pattern of overwork. It's about really beginning to reprogram our mind. And what I use to help my clients do this, it's called energy psychology.
Hmm.
So these are techniques that were developed by a clinical psychologist named Dr. Roger Callahan back in the 1980s. And I'm a math and science nerd, right? Like I came from banking. I came from
Mhm.
like a very, I think I mentioned last time I went to Stuyvesant, which is a math science high school in New York City. I am a math and science person. So for me, the fact that I could see a science back, a science like a what's the best way to put it? That there was real science and statistically significant results that demonstrated a decrease in cortisol, an actual repatterning of our neural pathways. That for
Wow.
me was really powerful. And again, this doesn't happen in
Yeah.
years, even if it took years to create it. It can actually happen. You can actually feel the shift in minutes and experience the shift in your patterns in months.
Ooh. Well, we all can get started at any time, and that's one of the things we should note here. It's never too late because we can change and for the best. We can make new, you're the neuroscience person, like new neural pathways to new patterns, new behaviors. I guess you would know best with that, right? Isn't that how it works? You got to break it after a while and you can start, I don't know how to say it, but is it reforming neural pathways? Is that what it is?
Yes, yeah. So what it is basically if you think about these neural pathways, these are like, when you walk down a path in in the forest, like you're on a hike, there's like a path that if you keep walking down it, it gets more well worn, right? It like the brush begins to clear, it's a little easier to go that path. Your brain consumes tons of energy and it's always looking for
Mm-hmm.
means um of of exerting less energy. So when it notices this pathway that you've kept walking down over and over again, this becomes the easiest path, the path of least resistance inside your brain. And so you begin to follow that path almost automatically. It's like how you can drive home from work and you don't even need to think about it, but it's
It
automatically
just
programmed into your
happens.
brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of the same thing when we're sacrificing rest for success, for example, right? Like it just happens because that's what we do all the time. But
Mm-hmm.
what we can do is if we can actually start to, with energy psychology, we can actually start to break up that old pattern and the emotional hold that it has on us and begin to start to program new patterns into our brain. And as we program those new patterns, as we use the energy psychology more and more, there are different forms of it. One of them is tapping, emotional freedom technique. The more that we start to use this, the more that it actually becomes easy to see a shift in yourself. And it's not just a shift that you yourself will see, your family will see it.
Yeah.
It can actually shift into our families and our kids. I think there are even degrees to which my parents see my shift and that it actually allows for them to shift as well. And I've even seen it with some of my clients who are in their 60s or 70s. Like, you think that they're stuck in their ways because they're older, but that's
And
that's not the case. You can still experience this transformation and it can take months.
got it. And it's never too late though. No matter what age you could try, you can learn. And
Yeah.
we still got 2 more minutes left, Diana, but just to sum up everything that we're talking about today, how did you want to end off?
Yeah. This need for control,
Yeah.
it's not something that's serving us. It's holding us back.
Mm-hmm.
And as we overthink, as we grasp at control for our security blanket, as we justify it because we're afraid of failing, we're really just holding on to stress. We're really just holding on to the past and we're bringing that forward with us.
Okay.
And so if we want to break those patterns, definitely check out my masterclass. It's less than 30 minutes. It's game-changing, mind-blowing content. You will feel the shift, I promise, within that period of time. Probably, I think it's about into maybe the 15th or 16th minute, you'll start to experience and feel the shift inside your body.
Perfect. All right. How can we contact you?
You can find the masterclass and contact me at savorlifewithdiana.com. You'll see the button for the masterclass right at the top right. You can also find me on social media, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook at Savor Life with Diana. That's SAVOR Life with Diana. And I look forward to seeing you in the masterclass.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We will look forward to it. And in the meantime, have a fantastic day. Enjoy the rest of is it 80 degrees where you are?
Pretty much. Yep.
Always, right?
Top weather always.
Does the winter ever get like your December? Is it still like 80?
Maybe it gets down to like 70, 75, and then you bring out a sweater.
Now, what is like the lowest it ever gets to there? Like
70.
70.
Maybe.
Oh my
But
gosh.
if it gets to 70, everybody is like taking pictures on their phone of like the temperature and they're posting it to Facebook. Like, oh my God, like look how cold
it is. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 57 here right now and I'm freezing my hands and my feet. Okay. Well, thank you. Warm us up, sunshine. Enjoy the rest of your day and we'll talk soon. Go to the website, check out the masterclass and sign up. Thank you.
Thanks, Jill.
Bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcasts on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.